Hello and welcome back to a weekly market recap. I'm with Rich.
Hello, everyone.
And I'm Knight. Let's get to it. So this past week, we saw the market down 1.69%. We're still up year to date 18.7%, but we have seen 5 days in a row where the S&P 500 has dropped, which is actually the worst losing streak we've seen since February of this year. Now, we haven't had a lot of big news surrounding this week, which means it's likely more just some regular volatility of September. We'll talk about that in a second, but also some of the biggest news that we did see was Biden's vaccine mandate for government workers when he came out and said that he wanted to make sure that everyone who's in a government job is vaccinated. But if we jump into the market, what we see is, even though it was a short week of trading, now what we see throughout the week is that every day there is some sort of internal volatility, intraday volatility, almost testing, trying to reach positive for the day, and then we end up selling off into the close. We rise through the next day, sell off into the close, rise, sell off into the close, rise, sell off into the close. But ultimately, we did end the week down 1.69%. Not insanely volatile, but a little bit more than we've been used to seeing, at least in the past few months.
Well, I look at that and I see a couple of things that make me feel pretty good. One is that it's small movements. It's not very large. It's not like it's a big rout. Since this is the first week after Labor Day, a lot of traders are now back in, so I expect a bit more volatility, some profit taking. In addition, we've had the Delta variant, and there is some slowdown in purchases. People are buying less, so I'm not surprised that there's a bit of a pullback in the market to reflect all those items.
Yeah, well, Rich is referring to is every year there's this stigma around September, and that after the summer ends, traders come back in September, and the market usually has one of its worst performing months in September, and then usually ends the year October, November, December pretty strongly. So it isn't necessarily surprising that we're following that pattern again this year. September is normally a more volatile month of up and downs, but overall, I think we'd all agree that this year has been relatively strong in the stock market. So we haven't seen any of those 5% sell-offs or 10% corrections that we normally see even in the second year of a bull market. So having a little bit more volatility, cutting down on some of the froth isn't the worst thing for this market at this time, and actually might help to sustain a longer bull run if we do get some of those sell-offs and recoveries. Yeah, well, I think looking to next week is going to be some of the bigger data that we've been looking for. CPI comes out next week. We have some of the federal budget information coming out next week. So bigger catalysts than what we've seen this week. And it also wouldn't surprise me if there were some murmurs or fears or worries about what are those numbers going to look like next week that played into some of this sell-off that we saw throughout this week.
Absolutely. So the next week may be another volatile week.
Yeah. Well, as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We're here to support you. Your money's here to support you, and we'll see you again next week.